Okay, this is the second video in the passive speaker tutorial. When we left off last time, we had made our back panel and we'd left it at that. We're now going to come in and we're going to make the internal parts. The internal parts that give it its shape and structure, bits to go allow the sound to travel from the phone to the two separate chambers. These are really important, but they're also going to create spaces. So we've got to be accurate with this. We're going to need quite a few parts to do this. Now you could in theory do this in one part and maybe break them down, but doing that does have risks and we need to look at how we're going to make each separate piece in real life. So what we're going to do, we need to look at the components. Now last time I mentioned that the active component is the one we're working on, but that didn't mean a lot because we only had the one component. So now I'm going to make sure I go back to my passive speaker, select the whole assembly, and now I'm going to press new component. This is really important that I do that first, because if I'd left back panel as my active component and pressed the new component, it would have appeared inside the back panel component, which would have meant if we wanted to move it around or join it anywhere, we wouldn't have been able to. So my new component, which is going to be spacer 1, appears below back panel, not inside back panel. That's really, really important. This is one of the most common areas that people get confused with and get wrong. So make sure that these are separate components here, not dependent upon each other. So we need to make the first of our spaces. So we're going to do the quickest and easiest one. I'm going to start with a sketch again, and I'll sketch on my front plane there, and I just need a rectangle, and I'm going to do it below. It doesn't matter where you do this. You could do it on it, you could do it above it, left, right. We're going to move it around straight afterwards, so it doesn't matter. What matters is that this height here is 10, and this width here is 230. I can now finish my sketch. I'm going to extrude it, and I'm extruding it 12. I just typed 12, and then I can press enter. I'm done. So it's the same technique that we used for the back panel in the previous video. We're going to be doing a lot of that in this video. There'll be a lot of repeating that, but we'll get that skill drilled in, and that's really important. And that's one of the things that I want to do with this, is get those basic skills drilled in. So I can leave it with this as the active component, or I can go back to this one for the first thing we're going to do, which is a joint. You can go to assemble and then joint. I like to use the shortcut J. Just press J on the keyboard and everything becomes active, and it says, right, we're going to join them together. So component 1. Well, I'm going to swing around behind. I'm going to hover over this. I haven't clicked anything yet. Now what I want is that node there. If you're further away, it's sometimes hard to snap to the right node, because even though that's the right node, it's on an edge, not a surface. It has to be the surface for this process anyway. So I'm going to zoom in much closer. I'm going to click on the surface, and then my mouse will only move to the nodes. Look, my mouse is quite far away from those nodes, but I'm moving up and down and selecting between the nodes. So I'm going to make sure it's that node I select. I'm then going to spin around. If you're wondering how I'm spinning around, you can either click on this directional block at the top and move it around. You can press the orbit button down here and you can click on the screen and drag it around. Or you can hold shift and middle mouse button down, and that's a shortcut to orbit. Okay. So if you hold middle mouse button on its own and move it around, it's a pan, or it drags. Shift and middle mouse button together and you orbit. So for my next point, I'm going to snap to this one here. So again, I'll zoom in a bit closer, click on the surface first, just for good practice, and snap. And that is attached. And it goes back to being spacer 1, my active component. That's that bit done. We need to do this a few more times now for the spaces to go round the outside, up the middle, and so on. So select passive speaker up the top there, make the whole thing active. And one of the things that I'm going to do now, because it's, for me, something that bugs me, if I click on open up relationships, where it says joints, this little annoying box here to show there's a joint here. We don't need to see that at the moment. Maybe if we need to figure out which joint is which later on because something's gone wrong, we can activate it. But I'm going to make that invisible. Just hide it. The eye icon is a visibility icon. Doesn't mean it's not there. I can't physically move it. I can click and drag it. It's not going anywhere because they're joined together. But it's just not visible. Okay, I've got my passive speaker selected. I can now press new component. This is going to be spacer 2. Now spacer 2, we're going to start doing the side ones. So I'm going to do the one on the left hand side up here. So I need a new sketch. Doesn't matter what plane it's on, doesn't matter where I do it. But I'm just going to do it on the left because that's where it's going to go. It's going to make it easier for me. Rectangle tool up here. Shortcut to that is R. I'm going to draw my rectangle. And I want my height to be 50 and my width to be 10. And that's it. I can finish my sketch. I can press extrude up here. The shortcut for extrude is the letter E. So if I press the letter E, I can type 12 and press enter. That's nice and simple. I can now press the shortcut J for joint, or I can go to assemble and joint. And I can select. Now, we want this on here. Let's not assume that the middle is the middle, because we don't know yet. I do know, but we won't assume that. We could always joint it here. So I could say, I'm going to joint this bottom surface and this node here to this bottom surface and this node here. And that fits in there. There's more than one way to join things together, and it will impact dependencies. If I was to change the height of my first spacer and it wasn't so high, this would now move down with it. If I had jointed this to the back wall here and I made that thinner, there'd have been a gap in between them. So these are things that we do have to consider, especially for more complex designs. Now, I need the exact same thing over here. We have to do this as a separate component, otherwise they're part of the same component, they're joined together, even as far as spacing them apart. So I'm back in my passive speaker file and I'm on new component again. So this is spacer 3 and sketch, plane. I'm going to go over to this side, shortcut letter R for rectangle, start, move over, 50 high and 10 wide. I've finished my sketch now. I can press my shortcut E to extrude, which is up there, and it's 12mm thick. Press enter and done. I'm now going to press J for joint, and just like before, I'm even going to do a different one to before. I'm going to go with the corners. So I will go with this surface, and that corner will match up with this surface and that corner. There we go. Easy. Back to the passive speaker. Now at this point here, I've done some stuff. I've got 3 new components in here. Always hit save. Don't try and get too much done without hitting save. Right, that's saved. I'm now going to hit my next component. So I'm going to go with the ones across the top here. So new component, spacer 4. Right, so these are going to go across the top here. We're going to do a new sketch, same plane as we've done for everything else. And R for rectangle tool, going across. I want it 10 high and 70 wide. I can finish my sketch, press E, press 12, enter is done, and there we go. I'm going to press J for joint and have a look. Well, yeah, I think I'll joint it to the side piece. So I'll select that one there and that one there. Press OK. And done. And do exactly the same thing on this side. Remember, back to passive speaker. And then new component. Spacer 5. New sketch. And then rectangle tool. Now wait, 10. Tab. 70. Enter. Finish sketch. E for extrude. 12 for our thickness. Enter is done. J for joint. And I think this time I'm going to go with that node up there. And that node up there. Because I know that we're not changing any of the dependencies, that means we're not going to move things around in this. If you want to try different jointing nodes and different jointing ways of doing it, please experiment, have a bit of fun with it, see if you learn something. If you get it wrong, you can undo it and try it again. That's fine. Right, we've got those ones done. We've now just got the small ones, which are going to be the ones that come down here and across. Same on this side, and the one up the middle to separate them. Now these measurements are important. They do have to be at the right height, otherwise your phone won't sit still. So, the first thing we want is the ones coming down here. So, new component, so we've got passive speaker selected. And I know that that's selected because I can see everything fully. If I have any one of these selected, that's the only one I can see fully. The rest go semi-transparent, almost ghostly, because they're not the ones in focus. I want everything in focus, because that's what I want it to be part of. New component, spacer 6, and same old process. Create sketch, pick my plane, rectangle, draw it out. So height for this is going to be 30 and the width is going to be 10 like everything else. Finish our sketch and then we can go to joint. Oh no, we can't. We need to go to extrude, distance of 12, enter. Nice and quick and easy. So now we can joint it, and we need to join this surface here to the underneath of that surface there. Do not fall into the trap of trying to use the middle, because that won't work. I have to use the edges for this because we're going to an edge over here. You could use the corner, you could use that edge or that corner. That's the edges you want to be using. So I'm going to use the middle one and join to the middle one there. Okay, that one's done. Right, we now need to do that all again. Back to passive speaker as the active component. New component, spacer 7, create sketch. On that plane, I'm going to go over to the left, rectangle tool, rough it out. This is 30 high and 10 wide. Finish my sketch, press extrude, type 12, press, oh that's 0, ooh, be careful with that, press enter. I'm now going to press my joint button and I'm going to join that surface there, or that node there on that surface to that node there, and that's that bit there done. Again, I've reached quite a significant point. I'm going to go back to my main body and I'm going to press save. Don't want to lose my work. I've tried that before, it's a bad idea. So now I need to do the bits that come across here and here, and new sketch. Oh no, see, again I'm getting myself carried away from myself there. What didn't I do? I didn't create a new component. If I'd created that sketch would have been part of the overall document, and it would have formed a body that wouldn't have been able to be moved. So, new component, spacer 8, Now I can go to my new sketch. It's easy to get carried away and forget little steps. Pay attention to what you're doing. So rectangle tool. What's that? Height is going to be 10. And the width is going to be 20. It's only a small part. Very small part. I'm going to extrude that to 12. And then we're going to joint it. Now this is going against this bit down here. So I'm going to join here to here. Okay. Done. Now I need to do that all again. So back to passive speaker 4. New component. Spacer 9. And oh, I seem to have a thing logged on my screen there. There we go. Disappeared now. Strange when that happens. New sketch. That surface there. Rectangle. 10 high. 20 wide. Enter. Extrude. 12. Enter. Right, I'm going to show you something a little bit different that I haven't shown you yet. The order in which you select the parts that you're going to be jointing can make things look strange. Every time so far I've selected the part I want to move first and the part I'm moving to second. If I do it the other way around, we'll do that node there. When I select this node down here, this part may sometimes move. It's moved away from everything else. If this happens, this is a likely cause of confusion and worry. I've seen students see this happen and think all their work is messed up because something's moved on their screen they didn't expect to move. Nothing is permanent in Fusion. You can undo things if it goes wrong, you can edit things. All it's showing you is how it's going to look prior to it being assembled. We know that this one is already attached to here. It can't be up here and be attached to there. So the obvious solution to this, or the obvious reason behind it, is it's just showing you how it's going to move, and then everything's going to move back to where it should go. When I press OK, this will go back down here, and there we go, voila. Don't panic. Right, one last spacer to go. One last spacer to go. Right, so this one is going to go from here up to here. We'll do a new component. Spacer 10. And new sketch on here. And now we need to do our rectangle. I'm going to do mine just up here. See the width there. 10 on our width and 30 on our height. And that should get us from just this bit here to here. Finish the sketch. Extrude my depth to 12. And now I can joint it. Now, actually, I'm going to have to cancel that because I can't do my joint yet because it looks like I can't access that bit under there. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag and I'm going to drop it. Great thing about Fusion, before you joint it, you can click, drag and drop things anywhere you want them to be. So now I'm going to joint it. Now it's going smack bang in the middle. So we can use the smack bang in the middle node. Quick, simple and easy. Go. Okay. And if we have a look, yep, everything sits lovely. Right, go back to our main document and I press save. If you need to pause at any point and save it, save it. Right, that's the middle layer done. In the next video, we'll look at the front layer, then we'll look at the sides after that. Okay, good luck.